I get you today as well, and Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg sat down, as you know, with some top conservatives yesterday afternoon in response to allegations of censorship on the social network. Zuckerberg says that there is no bias in selecting stories for Facebook's trending news feature, which is a relatively new feature on the site, but he does admit that there have been some, what he's calling, mistakes. Zac Moffatt attended that meeting. He is former digital director for Mitt Romney's 2012 presidential campaign, founder of Targeted Victory. Zac, welcome. Good to have you here. So you sat in the room. What was it like in there?
You know, it's an interesting dynamic just because you had media personalities, you had media owners, and then you had people like myself who were more on the campaign and the marketing side. Everyone had a different perspective, but it was a good open dialogue and I think a good first step.
All right. So in terms of their acknowledgement that anything had happened, I've heard from a couple other people that were in the room that they really didn't admit that they had done anything wrong. Is that your take?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that they're undergoing an internal investigation to determine whether they think anything happened. I think there's also the larger recognition, though, is that there are structural biases, ideological biases at play by being in Silicon Valley, Facebook, I think, overall. But I think all tech companies, whether it's Google, Twitter, I think this is a moment for all of them to reflect on what they need to do internally to talk to the conservative audience and going forward.
Do they acknowledge the just tremendous reach that they have? I mean, the comparison has been made to newspapers, which people might look at as having a conservative or liberal bent, but this is so much bigger than that, isn't it? And do they acknowledge that? Do they sort of understand that at their core?
I think so, and I think that's what they grapple with. I mean, their power is that they're an open platform to ideas, and if someone believes that they are biased, that fundamentally threatens that. Trust is the underpinning of the platform, and so I think that's why they reacted so quickly to this. I think it's why they brought together a group so rapidly, and I think hopefully this is a step of many being proactive with us, because one of the challenges is if you don't have a relationship with them, it's hard to respond if this is the first time you're meeting some of these people the first time.
Yeah. Do you think it's isolated to this trending news feature, or do you think that the problem is bigger than that? And was there discussion about that yesterday?
Well, that's exactly what I raised. My concern is that I think that trending topics is a very small part of a much larger conversation, the news feed being probably the 800-pound gorilla of the conversation. Right. But also, how does advertising work on there? How does civic engagement, encouraging people to vote, to register to vote, what does that like? And I think that transparency and that dialogue is necessary to keep this going. Otherwise, if that trust is not there, I think that has a fundamental problem for Facebook going forward.
I got to go, but one last question for you. In terms of sort of having a more diverse population at Facebook, did they discuss any effort to do that? Because the reports are that 80% of their employees are all consider themselves to be liberal.
Yeah, I think that was definitely raised. I think that also, though, as conservatives and Republicans, you don't want to kind of dictate how that should look. Right. But I think acknowledging that they have a problem, and I think the fact that Mark Zuckerberg acknowledged that they had shortcomings and is going to address it, is probably the most necessary first step. When the CEO says he's looking into it, I think that's very positive.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. You guys are going to keep the pressure on, I'm sure, going forward to make sure that some changes are being handled. Thank you very much, Zac. Thanks for flying back and being here. It's good to see you.